The laughter of the girls have long been gone. The shouting of military commands even longer. But in the silence of the old Saint Scholastica campus on the north side of Canon City, Colorado, you can almost feel like something is about to begin. A second chance, perhaps, for one of the oldest chapters of our city's history still standing today. On a brisk afternoon in the fall of 1880, the cornerstone was laid on the new Colorado Collegiate and Military Institute. It sat on what later would become 7th and Pike on the far north end of town. In that day, it was just a single road that led out there. The school would offer a military education for students 6 and up and accepted both male and female students. Despite the grand new facility, it was short-lived. The founders quickly fell into debt, and by 1886, its doors would close. The building would sit vacant for 3 years until the Benedictine Order of Chicago would purchase the property in 1889. The Sisters of St. Benedict would rename it Saint Scholastica. Saint Scholastica is considered the patron saint of education. No sooner had the nuns moved in, they would have to shut down once again. Blasting for a water line in the hogbacks would severely damage the building in 1892. It would take 5 years for the original building to come down and a new one constructed on the original foundation. By the time my grandmother, Georgiana Young, would start 7th grade here in 1902, several more buildings were added. Georgiana Young was typical of the students who would attend Saint Scholastica around the turn of the century. She would travel by buckboard from her home in New Mexico to the railroad station and then on to Canon City. Her father, my great-grandfather, Henry Young, was a member of the New Mexico legislature when New Mexico was still a territory. Her family wanted her to have a fine Catholic education, though being Catholic was never a requirement to attend. The school, as would be expected, had a strict moral code and dress code. Even a trip to the river on a hot summer's day meant keeping your legs covered. It was even harder for the nuns. 4 girls, including Georgiana Young, graduated in 1909. As the school continued to grow, generations of girls would attend. Georgiana Young, now Georgiana Jenkins, would send her oldest daughter, Angela, class of 37, and her youngest daughter, Luella, class of 45, to Saint Scholastica. Most of the rest of Georgiana's family would relocate to Canon City in 1944. As enrollment grew and the campus matured, a brand new dormitory, cafeteria, and gymnasium would be built in 1961. Girls from across the U.S. and the world would go to school here. Saint Scholastica would reach its highest enrollments in the late 70s. The nuns' appearances would change, but the rules, not so much. Martha Pardue graduated in 1978.
And we had girls from everywhere. Mexico, Taiwan, Japan, just all over the states and stuff. So it was a very special place here, yeah. This was our gym in here, and we used to have our dances here too. Homecoming dances, sweetheart dances, and they would always queen some type of royalty and stuff. And the girls stayed up there, of course. And then our cafeteria was down there.
The aging campus would see some major renovations in the 1980s. One of the oldest structures and the original chapel would both come down. New classrooms, swimming pool, gym, and a new chapel would go up. And things looked promising for the school and its beautiful campus, now long surrounded by homes. But things would change as the 90s rolled down. Declining enrollment would play a part, but the sisters were frugal and the school had no debt. 90% of its graduates would go on to college. A bigger problem was the aging of the nuns. Fewer women were entering the Benedictine order, and the average age was now in the 70s. The school would close in the spring of 2001, never to reopen. The campus was eventually sold, and for a brief period it reopened as a treatment center for troubled kids. After that, it sat vacant for more than a decade, and time and weather took its toll. Many of its buildings were damaged beyond repair. Last summer, many would come down. The walkway between the classrooms, the gymnasium, the auditorium, and the swimming pool would come down. There is some light at the end of the tunnel. Phil Lund and a group of investors purchased the property a year ago.
Those are for the dormitory. We're going to have a 43-unit condo. Yep, I'm happy to come over here, and it's going to look a lot different on the exterior and interior once we're completed with that. And then the historical building over here was built in the late 1880s, and I'm not at liberty to announce exactly what that's going to be right at the moment, but it is going to be very cool, and we expect in the next 2 weeks to be able to announce what is going to happen with that. And we're going to be able to preserve that building, and it's going to be part of our community for a good long time to come. And
The girls and nuns of Saint Scholastica, and before them, the young cadets of the Colorado Military School will never return, but at least their memories and hopefully some of their campus will go on. That's another edition of Throwback Thursdays. Thanks to Martha Pardue, Phil Lund, and the Royal Gorge Regional Museum and History Center for keeping the memories alive. I'm Chris Jenkins.